The Elden Ring DLC added a lot of cool weapons and spells to the game, and a lot of them scaled with faith. So I once again decided to try and find out if I could beat every major boss in the DLC, while this time only leveling faith. This means I won't have any vigor and I'll get one-shot by absolutely everything, but my weapons will do a lot of bonus damage like fire and holy. To keep the challenge interesting, I have two simple rules. One, I'll be using various different faith scaling weapons and spells only from the DLC. And two, once I beat a boss with a weapon, I'm not allowed to use it for the rest of the run. As always, if you enjoy the video, please do remember to like and subscribe. I start right at the beginning of the DLC with a level 1 character, and the first thing I do is collect some Scadutree fragments, but most importantly, find a weapon. For our first faith weapon, I head to the Ruined Forge lava intake, where I pick up the Anvil Hammer, which does fire damage. I upgrade the Anvil to a +9 and then head to the Church of Consolation in the starting area to grab another great faith weapon from this Black Knight patrolling inside the church, and after getting demolished in one hit a few times, we finally get the Black Seal Great Hammer, which does holy damage. Next, I grab the remaining Scadutree fragments in the starting area and head to the Fort of Reprimand, where I take the Sealed Spirit Spring to reach Scadutree Altus. Now we have access to the rest of the map without having to beat Rellana. While here, I also grab the Marika's Rune in the cellar, which gives you 80k runes nice and early. I grab a few more fragments in Scadutree Altus and head towards our first legacy dungeon, Bellerod. After opening the big door, I high-five these giant scorpions and take them out from stealth. And then they take me out from stealth. Fuck. So moving on to the top section of Bellerod, I decided to take care of our little friend Queeline, who drops his faith weapon later on if you kill him here. After this short round of PvP, I pretty much just run past all the enemies, as they're too slow to catch up until I meet the Curse Blade on the stairs, but luckily he decides to jump over my head and falls victim to gravity. He probably decided to commit Sudoku after seeing my big hammer. After reaching the final graze, I put all my remaining runes into Faith, and as for my physics setup, I equipped the Strength tier to be able to wield a weapon along with the Opaline Bubble tier, which, as you can guess, is extremely important when you're stuck with 10 vigor. So here we are at the Dancing Lion. The Dancing Lion is extremely weak to fire damage with 0 fire resistance, and so we naturally use the Anvil here. The Anvil, being an extremely slow weapon, makes it really hard to use on a boss that's as agile as the Lion. I tried to punish most of the attacks that seem safe, but as you'll see, even strong weapons are no match for the lightning phase of this boss. Was that a random lightning that got me? Bro! My second attempt, I play a lot safer, and though the fight is a lot longer, I end up getting a really comfy stagger to set up the end. Once we beat the Lion, he drops the Divine Beast Helm, which gives us a +4 to both Strength and Dex, which is really valuable as I'm not allowed to level up those stats. And since I used the Anvil on the Lion, I can't use it anymore, so I decided to upgrade the Black Steel Hammer that I picked up earlier. I put the rest of the runes I got from the Lion into my Faith, and then decide to visit the church in Scadutree Altus for the second Queeline encounter. This is another encounter that you need to be able to do to get his weapon later on. NPC fights are usually a pain in the ass in these games, but there's a really nice cheese for him that helps deal with him. Once he dies, I get Flameskewer, which is a really nice Ash of War. Finally, it's time to head to the Church District to pick up Queeline's Greatsword. I first beat this Tree Spirit to get the Iris of Occultation, which is a quest item you need to give to Queeline. You find him curled up in this room here crying about Marika, and just like a good friend, you give him the Iris so he can't see the light anymore, and in return, he gives you his Greatsword. This is a really cool faith weapon that does fire damage. While here, I enter the Shadow Keep from the back section, which also lets me sneak past all the enemies to pick up one of the strongest incantations in the game, Fire Serpent, that I'll use later on in the run. I get to the Shadow Keep rafters and then use the lift outside the loft to take me to my next boss, Commander Gaius. I pick up one more Scadu fragment and upgrade to Scadu level 9. Before I fight the boss, I decide to go around and pick up a few more items first. I go back to the 3 paths cross side of Grace to fight the Furnace Golem here that drops a Deflect tier. This is a tier that lets you perfect deflect enemy attacks like in Sekiro. I love using this tier in my runs because it makes guard counter such a strong mechanic. The Black Seal Great Hammer is special in that it gains bonus holy AR if you put a Sacred Infusion on it. Unfortunately, I don't have any Sacred Ash of Wars in the DLC, so I decided to take a little detour and head back to the base game to get the Sacred Blade Ash of War to put on the hammer. Finally, I'm ready for Gaius. Gaius is extremely weak to Holy, which is why we're using the Black Seal Great Hammer here. He's got a minus 20 weakness to Holy, which means Holy damage deals 20% extra damage to him. My first attempt, I tried to figure out how much damage a guard counter does, expecting it to be insane, and it wasn't. I thought I was gonna do a lot more. The next attempt, I just play the fight out slowly instead. You know? Do I have a quote to fill with odd stuff to say? No, I'm just like gifted. All right, he's dead. He's fucking dead. It's actually over. Boom. So easy. This video game is just so easy. Just a strafe, easy strafe, into a roll, into the charge R2 punish, into the R1 punish, into that. It's just too easy. Hitless, by the way. Hitless. After Gaius, I pick up the 5 Scadu fragments behind him. I then head back to the Church District to pick up one of the incantation seals we get in the DLC, the Fire Knight seal. This seal buffs Messmer fire incantations, which synergizes great with our Fire Serpent incantation. While here, I run past this Fire Mage dude and open the door leading to the Scadutree Avatar. I get the Grace here and then go back to Roundtable to upgrade the seal and level my faith with the runes I got from Gaius. Before we fight our next boss, I decided to take the coffin below the Shadow Keep to pick up one more necessary item, the Oil tier. This is a tier dropped by this Furnace Golem here, and it lets you coat enemies with oil, which makes them take 20% bonus damage from fire. With this fire build, I head to the Scadutree Avatar, who is extremely weak to fire damage. This boss only has 7k HP for Phase 1 and 15k HP Phase 2 and 3, and has a negative 40% weakness to fire. It also takes double damage on the head, so this is going to be completely free, and I definitely don't forget to get blue flasks for FP. Chat, I don't have fucking flasks. God damn it. With my flasks reallocated, I attempt to fight once again, and this time take a slow and steady approach to seal the deal. Ah! Or not. Another painful attempt later, and the Scadutree Avatar was done. Okay. Next, I decide to finally upgrade Queline's Greatsword and put Flame Skewer on it for the extra faith scaling from the Flame Art infusion. Rellana is one of the most aggressive bosses in the DLC, and she has a fire resistance of 25%. Along with this, there's a giant pool of water in her arena that reduces fire damage by a further 10% if she's in it. So fire wasn't exactly going to be the best type to use here, but I really like the Greatsword moveset for this fight because of the range and poise damage I get, so I decided to use Queline's Greatsword here. I don't know what was going on with my camera here, but purple isn't the worst color on me, I guess. After Rellana, I upgrade my faith once again and head to the Jagged Peak. As always, while heading up the peak, you are contractually obligated to recruit Egon to your party, as I do so here. Moving on, I reach the peak and get the grace before I go back to the round table to get my next faith weapon, the Shadow Sunflower Blossom. This weapon is a colossal hammer that does physical and holy damage and is one of my favorite weapons in the DLC. After putting a few more points into faith, I head back to the peak and proceed to fight Bayle. As with most of my challenge runs, I give Egon at least one good shot at fighting Bayle.
Curse you, Bayle!
And I usually choke and fail him. I'm sorry, Egon, I'm trying. I solo Bayle for my next attempt, and the Sunflower does really well against him. He's one of the tankiest bosses in the DLC because of his resistances, but the Sunflower does a lot of poise damage that gives me a stagger. Once phase 2 hits, I run away from his transition flight attack and get a few punishes after he lands. The rest of the fight is basically me playing patiently, waiting for openings, and there's really only one attack of his that I'm worried about, and that's his flying triple laser combo. Thankfully, he doesn't use it at all this fight, until right at the end, but it's okay, I can dodge it. Okay. This really is his one attack that I, no pun intended, dread. Easy. Well, easy after I die like 50 times. After Bayle, I level my faith to 96 and pick up my next faith weapon, Rellana's Twin Blades, from her remembrance. I also decide to head to the Fogriff Catacombs to pick up another faith weapon from the boss, the Death Knight. This boss is very cool and has some really flashy moves. Unfortunately, he's got very little poise and gets hit stun by almost every other attack, while also giving you a backstab opportunity after basically every single move he does. Once we beat this boss, he drops the Death Knight's twin axes that do physical and lightning damage. I upgrade the axes and decide to head to Metyr. Metyr is a miserable boss to fight with base vigor, but seeing as her arena is filled with water, I realized the lightning damage from the axes would get buffed by 10%. Nice! The damage still wasn't the best, and I slowly began to realize this would be an incredibly long fight, especially getting into phase 2, as I'd need to be aware of the awful laser attack. Since I'm stuck at 10 vigor, I would only be able to tank one attack with the Opaline Bubble Tier, so I basically need to be hitless throughout this entire encounter. My first attempt, I tried to do a fancy backstab dodge I saw on TV, but it was a miserable fail, so I'm probably never going to try that again. My second attempt goes much better. Alright, phase 2, I've got my bubble. I've lost my bubble. I should probably just run away for the laser. Yeah, all right, it's spinning again. Okay. What's next? What's next? Oh, okay, running away. Okay, I'm running away too. All right, laser. Let me guess, there's a wall. Dude, I almost... Easy. Easy fucking game. Oh, that's how you play Metyr. After Metyr, I get her weapon from her remembrance, the Gazing Finger. This is a cool weapon that scales on Faith that has a very nice AoE weapon art. I also head back to the ruins of Unte to get yet another Faith scaling weapon, the Sword of Darkness. I'll be coming back to this later on in the run. I finally managed to upgrade my Faith to the maximum of 99 and head to the Darklight Catacombs to make my way down to the Abyssal Woods and Midra's Manse. But of course, this means I have to go through my favorite boss From Software has ever put out, Inquisitor Jori. Jori is usually one of the most annoying bosses in these runs I do, but this time, thankfully, I have a weapon I can backstab him with. Jori is very susceptible to backstab loops, and you can essentially permastun him. Unfortunately, to be able to backstab him, you gotta first find his back, and he sometimes positions himself with his back against the wall, once again showing you just how annoying he can be. Well, he backed up against a fucking gravestone, man. Thankfully, once you beat Jori, he gives you a really good faith weapon, the Barbed Staff Spear. This is a faith scaling weapon that does partial holy damage, but it also has a bleed status effect on it. After I upgrade the weapon, I move into the Abyssal Woods where I'll find yet another faith scaling weapon from the NPC here, the Matting Hand. Once I get the weapon, I sneak past most of the enemies in the Abyssal Woods and reach the Mans. After going through the Mans, I finally reach Midra. I decide to use the Staff Spear we picked up from Jori on Midra, as he's pretty weak to bleed and only has 80 poise. I tried the Ash of War on my first attempt, which shoots out these mini golden arcs, which can also proc bleed, by the way, but unfortunately I get Insta Madness procced and immediately die. My second attempt, I decided to just use my melee attacks and get incredibly lucky here. I get a bleed proc on the exact same frame that he was supposed to do his face transition, which delays it to much later on in the fight. Wait, he's not I'm so confused. Did I cancel his face too? With a bleed proc? What the? Oh, there it is. Wait, oh my god, you can actually do that? Surely I don't throw. Oh, there it is. What the fuck? Once I'm done with Midra, I go back to Ensa's castle and pick up the Fire Coil Cookbook. Fire Coils are S-scaling faith consumables that I thought would be fun to try and use against the boss. Next, I head to the Cerulean Coast and pick up a Scadu fragment before I drop down the hole to reach the Fissure Depths. I grab another Scadu fragment here and reach Scadu level 16. I decide to use the Fire Coils on our next boss, the Putrescent Knight. This boss has only around 20k HP, and though he's weakest to Holy, he's got no resistances against fire. I wanted to see how much damage I could get from just the Fire Coils, so I decided to optimize my build a little. I used the Fire tier along with the Oil tier to buff my fire damage, along with the Fire Scorpion charm as one of my talismans for the 12% bonus damage to fire. With all these buffs, I deal a massive 5.6k damage per coil. I would still need to be careful though, as I can only carry about 10 Fire Coils at a time. Do you think I can hit him up here? Go! Let's go! What the fuck? That was insane! What the actual fuck? Holy shit, dude. I could have killed him up there, but I was trying to play it safe. Actually crazy. Once I'm done with the Putrescent Knight, I return to the Shadowkeep and head to our next boss, Messmer. Before I fight Messmer, however, I sneak back outside to kill this Fire Knight to acquire the Flame Spear Ash of War, which is another amazing fate-scaling Ash of War. Next, I need a weapon to put the Flame Spear on, so I decide to kill the Greatsword-wielding Fire Knight to get an RNG drop, the Fire Knight's Greatsword, which is an amazing colossal Greatsword. I upgrade the Fire Knight's Greatsword and put the Flame Spear Ash on it and decide to finally head to Messmer. You're probably wondering why I'm using a fire weapon against Messmer of all bosses, and normally you'd be right. However, the Fire Knight's Greatsword is such a strong weapon that even through Messmer's 40% fire resistance, it still chunks him for a ton of damage. Another reason why this weapon is so good for Messmer is the double hit you get in his phase 2. If you charge R2 the Snakehead after an attack, you usually hit the head and then Messmer as soon as he comes out of the snake form for double the damage. Yeah, you see how I'm like okay there? Should be dead here. Double hit. Almost. Okay. Once I beat Messmer, I head to the Raw Ruins to get yet another fate-scaling weapon. I sneak behind the Crucible Knight Devonia here and kill her to get her weapon, Devonia's Hammer. This is another colossal weapon that, much like the Sunflower, does a lot of poise damage. With this weapon, I head to Romina. Romina only has 80 poise, so I was expecting to stagger her every 2 hits. I kind of want to get a fully charged Ash out, but I don't know if I have an opening for it. Oh, so she can oh my god, that's so cursed. That can still clip you, huh? Even after transition? What the fuck? Does that not have a hitbox? Does the spinny not have a fucking hitbox? Oh! Ah! Oh! Oh, that was oh, that was a way to, you know what? I'll take all the deaths, man, just for that kill. After Romina, I burn the ceiling tree and gain access to Anir Ilim. I run past the lines and spiral enemies to reach the final hurdle before the ending, Leda and friends. This fight was gonna be hard, but thankfully, I was prepared. If you remember, I'd picked up a little weapon called a Sword of Darkness earlier on in the run. This weapon has a really good Ash of War that knocks down NPCs and does a lot of holy damage in an AoE. I decided to use this for a while, but kept getting killed because of the low vigor I have. To make it worse, I actually forget to kill Hornsent earlier on in the run, so I also had to deal with him. So I decided to call for some backup of my own. And this time, I have 2. Joining my boy Natan is someone I don't get to see a lot, but Thiolier is here too. With Natan and Thiolier around as distractions, the fight ends up becoming trivial as I do a ton of damage with my Sword of Darkness, and I don't have to worry about getting chased down by Dane. Natan? What was that? What a god. What a god. Thiolier.
I am deeply sorry. I am here only to grant Scadutree this singular wish. I will stop Mickle's kind. He will never become a god.
Once we're done with Leda and friends, she drops our next faith weapon, Leda's Sword. Leda's Sword is a light greatsword that does partial holy damage, which our final boss is weak against. I head back to the round table one more time and upgrade the weapon before heading to promised Consort Radahn. Radahn is weak against holy in phase 1, so this would be a pretty good weapon to use against him. Radahn Specialist! It's okay, I just gotta do the rest of the fight hitless. I can punish there, I probably should. I have a decent phase 1, but unfortunately, his phase 2 isn't weak to Holy anymore, so I lose out on a lot of my damage, and the fight felt like it kept going on forever. I decided I needed something else with a little bit more damage and speed, so I get my final faith weapon for the run, and a legendary weapon at that, the Euporia Twin Blade. This is a twin blade hiding at the end of a very secret path in any limb that you can reach from the Spiral Rise side of Grace. I head back to Radahn with the Euporia, and I immediately notice I have much higher damage. Sadly, I immediately get killed in phase 2 again, so I decide to add a little bit of defense this time and add the Ritual Shield Talisman along with the Deflect here. I quickly find out that no matter how good you are at Radahn, he still finds a way to destroy you. If not for his physical attacks, the Holy Beams in phase 2 are enough to one-shot you too at base vigor. A few deaths later, I get into phase 2 with a solid attempt where I almost immediately lose my bubble tier. Not punishing. I could have guard countered. Maybe not. Oh! Die. Oh! I fucking greeted. I fucking greeted. That could have been very bad if I didn't actually, like, land the hit. I greeted. If you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to check out some of my other runs linked here. The Secure. Well, there it is. Elden Ring only leveling Faith. This one was a lot of fun, man. I actually managed to use, like, a bunch of, like, really cool creative shit. Even managed to use a fucking Euporia. Did I stop his meter attack by spam jumping? Yeah. There's a timing to it, but if you jump while he does his meter attack, at a certain timing, he'll land in front of you.